This is part of the system that I use to drive value, which to me right now is what delivers the most impact for design in organizations. Business design, which translates to roughly where are you going, right? Depending on the type of business model you have or the type of market you're in and what value you're trying to create, it's going to have an impact in what direction you're going to take. The next one is organizational design, which is how you function. So there's going to be some aspects of business design that cross into organizational, right? Depending on what market you're trying to tackle, you're going to have to deal with things in a certain way that might affect the way that you function. But generally, how you function can be independent. Departments and teams all hold valuable data that can be valuable to other departments and teams. And how they function, how they communicate that, how that data is accessible, first of all, right? Because in some companies, they don't really want other departments to know. They don't share properly and whatever, and that has a huge impact because every department ends up doing the same work for research, and that increases the overhead. So definitely when organizations look at what data a department can have and actually zoom out and ask themselves, can this be valuable for another department? Next, we have brand design, which translates to what you represent. And again, you can use business design as kind of a crossover there. You can have the market impact the branding that you're doing, but you can also operate brand design as its own individual thing, meaning that, if you want to have a value that you are socially responsible, it doesn't matter what market you're in, So brand design can be from internal to external, which means that you can have a set of values and principles for the team and also values and principles that you want to communicate to customers. So product design translates to how do you create? If you're a product-led company, you're likely going to invest most of your resources in here, including research and development, etc. Product design as a whole definitely has its ways of defining how you create. If you're going to be doing this iteratively, if you're more on the manufacturing side, you're going to want to do the most upfront iterations before you actually send it off to be created in the physical space. And if you're in a digital space, you're going to be shipping things more regularly and then fixing them as you go and gather data. The next one would be service design, which translates to how do you interact? And this is one of the very underestimated value creators in a business. I see a lot of companies that put enormous amounts of resources in the product. And while that's great, and if you're a product-led company, it's very normal, the ratio still needs to be split out through all these silos, in my opinion, while you can favor product design, but most of the time service design is completely ignored. And let me give you an example of this. So if you have a great product and you put as much effort in it and it's very easy to use, etc. But from a service design point of view, the infrastructure that you're providing your client or the customer support that you're providing your client is subpar, they're going to have a bad experience and they're probably not going to want to use your product. So no matter how much effort you put in product design, if the service design aspects of the business suck, or even the business design aspects suck, right? Your business model is not very well suited for the market, then customers are not going to want to do transactions with you and you won't give them as much value. As far as where the responsibility lies, I'm unsure if it's more on the organization side or actually the designers within the company, but definitely designers that are focusing too much on the product without understanding the other forces in play are definitely not bringing the most value that they can, which is why I suggest looking at design within the company in all these silos. And granted, some product designers don't have the experience to go and do all these other things. This is not to say that one designer should do all of these things. I'm familiar with all of these things because in the past, I've, like I said, founded and co-founded companies. I've also done executive roles, I've done manager roles, and I've done individual contributor roles. So I have a fairly solid understanding of a lot of moving parts. But one thing that's important, if you're not familiar with this and you're a designer, you need to understand where the limits of your work start and end, and also not take additional responsibility because it's not your role. And it's important to understand the limits and capabilities of your work because a lot of companies actually think that product design is going to be the main factor that's going to make them successful in their design practice. But as you can see, there's much more to it than just product design. So to come back to service design, essentially it's designing the way that you were going to interact with the customer and their interaction with your platform. So it's a lot about the customer journey, understanding the touch points, similar to product design, but it's much more focused on the ability for the internal teams or anything that they need to interact with, whether it's the servers which would be infrastructure, or people, which could be customer support, sales, etc. How all these people are interacting with the customer should be designed so you can A, understand what loops they're going through, and B, you can pass data to other departments, which you can feed learnings from service design back into organizational design, and then let that portion of the design process craft out a better experience to actually change the way people function within the organization. And then you keep doing that loop to get the maximum feedback and create the most value possible. And the last one, which is communication design, is where you actually speak as a brand. Right? What channels are you using? Are you on, certain types of social media? Obviously, if you're more B2B, you're going to be on LinkedIn. If you're more B2C, you might be on Facebook. It could be print, could be digital, all these different mediums. In print, could be billboards, could be bus banners. I don't know. Really depends on what type of market you're in, what type of branding you want to have. So communication design is all the channels. It's often very associated with marketing and sales because obviously marketing is going to be communicating to the customers, and the way that you design that experience falls into communication design. So that's the systems thinking applied to design in organizations. The upcoming videos I'm going to make are going to be labeled under these specific verticals as of now, because this is the framework that I'm using. And aside from these verticals, I'm also going to be talking about design workflow, which is going to be more of a meta discussion, and I might do a little bit of design ops, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on these verticals for the upcoming content. So that's my systems thinking super simplified and systems thinking applied to design in organizations video. If this video is valuable to you, don't forget to like and subscribe for the upcoming content. See you in the next one.